G'day all, and I guess welcome to Tech Tip Tuesday. I was watching a video the other day on some guy was replacing the trusty old wheel bearings on his trailer. And how I thought he did it wasn't correct. So I thought I'd run through, I guess, the correct way to do it. I've had a fair bit of experience with wheel bearings. Done enough. Yeah, so how he was doing it was basically he was just smothering the grease around the bearing, and I don't think that really does anything. You need to get it right into the bearings essentially. And when he did the bearing, put a new bearing in, he didn't replace the race. Now these are machined to suit each other. So if you don't replace them, you kind of essentially not doing the job properly. He didn't replace it because it was too hard to get out of the hub. And they're quite hard to get out. So I've already knocked them out because I won't bore you with that because it is quite a time-consuming process. But I made a little tool, probably not the best, but stops from smashing your hand. I use just a little cold chisel, and I put a big nut on the end, and I welded it, and I usually wear a big welding glove when I do it, and instead of trying to hit that, you're hitting that, so you can't damage your hands. Just little things I've picked up along the way and whatever else. So what I normally do is I pack bearings and Cryovac them, put them in a Cryovac bag. That way they're ready to go if you ever need them. That way you're only doing it once and you're not doing it on the side of the road, and you only get a little bit dirty. And to put the races back in, get the good old, because you know the old trick metal expands with heat and contracts with cold, so we'll stick these bad boys in the freezer for I don't know, maybe an hour, maybe two. They don't slot straight in, you still need to bang them in, but you don't need to bang them in as hard. That's what I found anyway. So we'll stick this here. And this is how I do bearings, gloves. Just plain old rubber gloves. Pretty essential if you ask me. I've always got rubber gloves for bearings. Grease just gets everywhere and it's annoying. Because once you touch grease with your hands and then you seem to touch everything else, it gets annoying. There's no easy way to do it. You can buy, I did have an auto greaser kind of thing. You put it in this machine and got to plunge the grease in. But I found that you still got dirty doing it and it didn't do quite a good a job. So there's no easy way to do it, but get a dollop. Now you really want it to get in between there. The guy that I seen do it, all he was doing was wrapping the bearing like this. Essentially it doesn't get in the middle. So I'll wipe that off, which it still needs a bit of grease on there, but how I've found is I grab it with my thumb and forefinger, get a bit of grease, and just wipe it in. And you'll see in a second, see how it started to pop through? Takes no time at all. Spin it in your hand, do the next three. See, it comes through nicely. Get the grease out of the middle. And go again. And go again. Righto, one done. That's how easy it is. Put that aside. I usually got a rag and stuff, but I forgot. Same with big bearings. Big bearings obviously easier. See how the grease gets in there? Take the grease out of the middle. Spin it. Having grease in the middle doesn't really do anything because they're so tight. Only a little bit of grease because when they go on the axle shaft, they're tight, so you don't really need grease. Or grease pushes out anyway, so you only need a little bit. So there you go. Grease is done. Now I usually rub one finger, rub grease around the outside, just to get it right in there. I mean, it's usually in there pretty good, but get a little bit on the inside. Set them aside. Then with your hub, grab a decent scoop again. And then plaster on the inside here. There you go. Wipe the excess off. Good thing about rubber gloves is you go like this. No grease. We'll get them out of the freezer in a sec and we'll put them in and I'll show you how to bang them in. I bang them in with things like, it's a bit harder when you're on the road, but big socket. I'm probably going to get a bit of pipe and have it in the car. Have it ready. When I bang them out, don't ever bang them on the ground. I always take a bit of 90 by 45. Go and get a meter at the hardware store. It's always good to bang it on that instead of banging it on the bitumen or something like that. Just makes more of a mess. The trick is make sure you've got a good hammer and don't be afraid to give it a whack. Otherwise it just takes a while. Like I said, there's no easy way to get them out unless you've got a press, and no one's really got a press on the side of the road. But this is quite an easy job on the side of the road. Like I said, I always have a Cryovac or in a bag or ready to go. I could swap out it. And I've always got spares. So, boat trailer essentially. That's the main trailer that does bearings. I've got hubs, bearings, a spare brake. I've even got a spare axle if I really need it. I haven't had to do an axle yet, but at the end of the day you need somewhere to hold it, so it's just easy just to get an axle. So the reason I do that is so I've got spares of everything. I can just pull the hub off, bang a new hub on, and we're good to go. Same as brake calipers, brake pads. Salt water just essentially annihilates everything. And I've noticed that with doing my axles recently, brake pads have failed. Trailer doesn't get a lot of use, but yeah, it's a really hard thing to wash. But yeah, anyway, back to the bearing. Wait for them to get them out of the freezer, and we'll show you how to whack them in, and then we'll put the bearings in, and then we'll put them on the thing, and I'll show you how to adjust them. So this is the best way I've found to get the bearings in. Like I said, I will get a bit of pipe made. These have been in the freezer, nice and cool. See, they don't fit. They don't just drop straight in, but socket, bit of pipe be easier. And in they go. And like I said, it's easy to do it on a bit of board, from what I've found anyway. The bottom one's a bit hard, top one's a bit, and when you put them in, don't do the rookie mistake of putting them upside down like that. Bearings in the back go that way, so if you put it that way, bearing's not going to seat. So that's another one. So it has to go that way, so the bearing seats that way. What I've also found is you can get an old bearing and smash in that way, your old bearing. It kind of works. But to seat it originally, I get a bit of timber. Same with when I put my seal in. I see a lot of people bang, 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 bang. Get yourself your bit of timber. One bang and it's in. But we'll fast forward this up because it's a bit of a pain in the ass. But I just use a flat drift and it starts going. And you'll know when it hits the bottom, it'll just have that distinct metal on metal sound. Get confident with your hammer, don't pussyfoot around. You'll never get it in, it's quite a tight fit. I use it's a 4-pound hammer, so it's a big fucker. And I'm not afraid to give it a sting. It does hurt when you miss, don't get me wrong. So I won't try and miss on camera. But don't ever do the double swing. Don't try and like bang, bang. Just do it, one big one, hold it there, bang. Settle it, bang, bang. Bang. And we're all but in. And when it gets down to the second stage, I don't know if you can see that. But so there's 2 stages kind of thing. So it'll get to the second stage and then you need to move your drift in a bit and you'll get it. This is where it kind of gets a bit harder because the drift doesn't have as much to seat on. I think we're there anyway. I'll give it a couple more round. So you can hear that metal on metal sound. She's all the way home. Now I don't have a seal to put in, but it's the same thing. Seal sits on there and they'll be different for marine seals and oil seals kind of thing. Put your seal on and just give it a, and it'll seat it first time every time, and then you don't have to kind of piss around with it. So I hope that helps. A couple of little tips are, have all your tools ready. Have them sitting there, good to go. Gloves, rags, all your sockets. Find all this shit before, because like, grease gets on everything, Look, it's just, unfortunately, it just gets on everything and then becomes messy. Then you get it on your clothes and then you get it in your car and, it's like anti-seize. You put it on one thing, it goes everywhere. That's my tips. Hope you learned something. Yeah, so I guess the trick to adjusting bearings is you don't want them too tight, you don't want them too loose. Too loose, they cause movement. Too tight, they get hot and eventually just burn your bearings out. It's pretty easy to adjust them. I don't do it with the caliper on, just for the fact that the caliper kind of seizes it up a bit. And just to make sure everything seats right. So yeah, it's definitely a hard one. So we'll see if we can sit this there without getting my big head in the way. Well, come on. Sits nicely. No major free play or anything like that. Washer, with your washer, if you look at the washer dead on, it's bent. So it's kind of concaved. the idea is it's kind of like a spring-loaded washer. So whichever way it's concaved is the way you put it. So it's concaved out a bit. So yeah, that's the way you put it. And then when you tighten it, it adds pressure, and then it technically shouldn't come undone. Technically. And I've lost my shifter. Just the thread's a bit dirty. So it doesn't need much. I normally go up one, back off half. And you can hear it. Spins nice, spins free. Then I stick my split pin in. Take this off. I don't have brake pads, so we can't really can't put the wheel and everything back on. But what I normally do, if I'm in no rush or anything like that, I just put it on, leave the caliper off, put the tyre on, give it a spin with the tyre, and the idea is you want it to stop naturally, not forced. So we'll whack that up. So it comes to a stop by itself. So what I normally do is now I'll put the caliper on. No, sorry, I'll put the tyre on. It's a bit of dicking around. I put the tyre on, I give it a good spin, make sure it's alright. Then I'll put the then I take the tyre off, put the caliper on, and last of all I trim my split pin, bend it over, and put the cap on. I don't do it the opposite way. Sometimes you get it on and you got a bit of movement in your tyre. That's what I've found anyway. It might be all well and good here, but once you got the tyre and a bit more movement, you can give it a bit more adjustment. But that's about it. You know, don't over tighten them, don't have them too loose. There's a happy medium. Don't grease them. Don't just whack the grease on the outside. Grease them properly. Takes bugger all. I've normally got gloves on the whole time, but I don't this time. That's my Tech Tip Tuesday. Like I said, you know, we'd all be the same. We all see a lot of people at boat ramps and stuff doing wheel bearings and stuff like that. It's a dirty, shitty job. But like I said, I normally have a set in a hub, swap them, and job done. In the boat trailer, I'll do the same for the big trailer. I carry a set of tools as a spare. Make sure you always got some hand cleaner in your car. Couple of bearings, you know, there's a safety clip. The tools that are essential are, you know, you need a set of side cutters, screwdriver, flat blade screwdriver, so you can knock the cap off. And I've got a couple of shackles and a couple of bits of chain. I've also got a big die, so I can clean the thread before I put it on. And then bearings. I probably do take a few too many, but I also keep castle nuts, split pins, washers, things like that. You know, this box takes up no room, and it'd be a couple of kilos. It slots in here, and it always goes back. There's a thing of grease. You know, there's the essentials that you need. Well, I think you need anyway. There's nothing worse than going to a boat ramp or anywhere and doing a bearing and then you're stuck. So it's better to be prepared than not prepared. So I guess that's my Tech Tip Tuesday. Thanks for watching. And I guess we'll do another one. If anyone's interested, drop a comment if you want to see something. More than happy to give it a go. But yeah, we'll see you on the next one.